Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 54 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? So this week's something that I love is alcohol. It relaxes you. It can taste good. It can fuck you up. It can fuck you up too much. Yeah, that's true. And I feel like a lot of the things I love and talk about for these little intros are double-edged swords. But whatever. Anyway, for more about this podcast, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is peoplewelovepodcast. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam Choit, if you want to follow me too. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is actor and comedian Mark Sipka. Originally from the small town of Alma, Michigan, Mark comes from a family with 2 older brothers who were ballbusters. His mom is the straight man to the character that's Mark's dad, Tim Sipka. Mark always thought he would be a professional athlete, but upon realizing that this was not going to happen, he went from basketball benchwarmer to becoming his high school's unofficial mascot. There's a lot more to this story, though. And Mark and I talk college, LA, Urkel, and of course Dad, the extraordinary math professor. But let's just get into it. Here's Mark Sipka. So it's good to see you today, Mark Sipka.
Good to see you too, Adam.
Thank you for dropping by the studio. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. How's your day going?
It's been going great so far. How about you?
Oh, not bad. What have you been up to today?
Man, today I thought about going to the gym. I really did.
Mental exercise.
Mental exercise. I think half of going to the gym is just having the membership, which I do. Instead, I had a grilled cheese sandwich.
Nice.
Which was so much more satisfying, man.
I suppose. So what would you have done at the gym if you had went? I'm always interested in people's routines.
If I had gone to the gym,
what they do.
I probably would have done a bunch of crunches on one of those ab machines.
Yeah.
But I just completely erase it with the food I eat.
Yeah.
And then I probably would have tried to work the pecs. It's the strongest thing I got. I got sweet man boobs.
Nice.
And I probably would have done something on the treadmill.
Yeah, I think it's better to do cardio than doing like the ab machines. You'll get more bang for your buck.
Yeah,
like you see, like so. Really, sometimes you see really heavy set people like doing abs and or doing crunches. It's like you're so far away from where you want to be.
You're just chipping away at it, man.
Yeah, you're better off just to do cardio and not eat as much McDonald's.
No,
McDonald's
I agree.
Is great, or once in a while, I guess.
I like how quickly you backtracked. You're like, in moderation.
Yeah.
Not every day.
Yeah. No, you know what? I don't know. I try not to eat too much fast food, but I still want like a bite of it. I just want that's what my mom used to want. She just want a bite of my cookie. Wants a bite of my Snickers bar, and that's how I get where she was coming from with that.
It's such a mom way of snacking because they're the only ones that can hold themselves to a bite. Nobody else can handle a bite other than just a mom.
I'm becoming a mom.
Just one bite?
Yeah.
Dude, if I get one bite of a burger, that doesn't exist. I'd eat it in one bite, but I'm not going to just take one bite.
Yeah, I hear you. Anyway, enough about my mom and her eating habits. Let's get into your life. So why don't you tell me your life story, and we could start from birth, leaving the hospital to drive home, and tell me if you remember that.
So it's sort of foggy right now, but from what I've been told, we made it home.
Sweet.
So I'm here.
Nice.
But no, I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and so my parents. They had me. I was born in Alma, Michigan, which is a small town of about 8,000 or 9,000 in the middle of Michigan.
What city is that near?
It's near Mount Pleasant, which is where Central Michigan University is. It's about 15 minutes away. That's the big city that's close by, and then Saginaw is probably about 45 minutes away from us. So we're pretty far away from a large city, but it was a great place to grow up. I loved it. It felt like that town. It was totally that town and that time as a 90s kid where it was be home by 5. We were running all over that town, riding our bikes in the wintertime, going sledding all over the place. It felt pretty safe, and it felt like we could go anywhere here. So I really loved the town I grew up in, and grew up in a good home. Was close with my parents and my brothers. Of course, one's 10 years older, one's 6 years older. Phil's the oldest, Steve is the middle, I'm the youngest. And dude, they picked on me so much. But they balanced it out with physical bullying and verbal bullying. So I got that mix. So I think that they toughened me up a bit. Like when I moved out here to LA, they were like, "You're welcome, man. You're welcome. The city's got nothing on you. Nobody's going to say anything worse than what we've said to you." And I was like,
Wow.
it's so true. And,
I thought you were going to say they balanced out the physical bullying with love and care and affection.
So that does sound better.
Mental bullying.
That does sound better. No, they had a balance of bullying. I'll say that.
Nice. They had a good approach.
Yeah, they had a good approach, and they. But like now, they're some of my best friends. The whole time, I mean, we loved each other. It wasn't just like constant bullying at all times. That was what I've come to know as they were being older brothers,
right?
Which I do appreciate, and because there were times where the youngest kid is not the sweetest kid. I was not innocent, and so it got to the point where my parents figured it out. And whenever I'd come running and crying and screaming to my parents, my dad would start turning to me and be like, "Well, did you ask for it?" And so many times I asked for it, and so I deserve to get beat up sometimes and called out and made fun of by them. And I'm glad they did it because it's true. Like, I haven't heard or experienced anything worse than what they did and said to me.
We may have to get into some of these specifics. But when you moved to LA, is that something you thought of right away, or thought of as you carried throughout your life? Like, oh, I could handle whatever situation because my brothers prepared me for this.
I think it really did factor into a lot of the ways I approached different things in my life. So, like high school and college, I was sort of on the defense, or like I was ready and prepared to take on challenges that came in my way. It wasn't like I was indestructible in any sense, but I think what helped was having somebody that had already called you out on stuff, on stupid things you said and stupid things you did, so that
you had people holding you accountable
for
beyond just mom and dad.
For sure. And it meant something because they were my brothers. And what was nice was they were the next school up from me. You got one that's 6 years older, one that's 10 years older, and I can sort of look to the future and see what they're experiencing and what they're going through and learn from them and ask them questions. And that really helped, getting to see in advance, like having a brother in college being like, "Dude, don't worry so much about high school. Like, these are not the most important years of your life. Like, this is not that crazy, like this is not what it's all about. It's not just all about your town. It's not just all about right now."
Yeah, I didn't realize that at the time. I will say that. It was, you feel in such your insular world that these are the only people that if you're not, whatever you are in that high school is what you're going to be forever. Like, you feel like, I don't know. You feel trapped in a sense.
You totally do.
You feel like that's the whole world, the whole universe.
It's all we've known up to that point.
Right.
So why shouldn't we think so? And so I do appreciate them for sort of showing me what was next, and also like letting me know what they thought was important and what they went, "Oh man, I wish I hadn't spent so much time worrying about this thing."
Yeah, I was going to kind of ask, what did you, besides like maybe overvaluing the high school experience academically or socially or otherwise, what did you maybe learn from them in terms of what not to do? You're like, "Oh shit, I don't want to be
for
like
sure,
that,"
man.
or even something they told you personally, like experience that a failure or misstep that they made.
I think what I do see looking back, and it's also, I think, a part of growing up in a small town, is we all just invested so much time and effort into sports. We're all pretty small guys. Our family tree, we're not tall. Like we don't, none of us break 6 feet. And we invested so much time into sports. And I think what was cool was seeing what it gave back to us. My brother Phil actually went and played college football. He was the most athletic out of all of us. But my brother Steve and I put a lot of time in, and I think we sort of saw football especially. We sort of saw it not give us what we were putting into it. You started sitting the bench a little bit more in sports. Right. I felt that with basketball especially, and you're like, "Oh, this doesn't feel good." But I always genuinely thought, I'm going to be a professional football player, and if that doesn't work out, baseball player, and if that doesn't work out, professional skateboarder. It was always, I'm going to be an athlete. And when I was in high school, I quickly realized, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is going to be what I get to do.
Yeah, I think I realized that before high school even, because I loved baseball, but I still wanted to be.
Yeah.
I probably still wanted to be a professional baseball player when I was 12, 13, 14, even though I was not an advanced player.
Sure. But I bet you had so much fun with it. You know, it's so much fun to put in that time and train and work hard like you're going to. Like, I watched my brother Phil in college work so hard, try to put on weight, gain the muscle, and practice multiple times a day. And I saw great things come from that. And I saw him also, you know, not get rewarded in ways that he should. And so what was great was seeing and learning early on. I think first with basketball, that was the first sport where I started sitting the bench, and I went, oh, I can get the grades, I can work hard, I can be a good teammate, have a great attitude, and I could still not get what I want.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I learned it sophomore year of high school instead of right now, because I think in this business of acting and stand-up and writing, we got so many people that have the talent. They've got the great attitude. They got great ideas.
I feel like I'm still learning this lesson every day.
It's the heartbreaking lesson.
Right.
That's why, is because especially in this business where there's no rules, you better believe it's not fair. It's totally not fair. But we knew that coming out, but it doesn't make it feel any better when it doesn't go our way, when you don't book it, or when they don't respond to your email, or your script gets ignored. You go, oh man, but I thought I did everything right.
Yeah, you know what I try to do with failure, I guess? 24 hours.
Give it 24 hours?
24 hours to feel shitty about yourself,
Yeah.
to wallow, to complain, whatever you need to do. Give yourself 24 hours, but then 24 hours max.
Yeah, and then you cut it off, right?
Yeah, and then it's done.
It's true, man. I think that's really good.
Give yourself a little bit of a time to wallow, complain, feel bad.
Yeah, I'd say you've earned that.
Yeah, it's like you have to experience the negative emotions to appreciate the positive ones.
Yeah,
but do we have to dwell on the negative ones?
It doesn't help. You can feel it and go, hey, this sucks, man.
Right.
And you can have your friends, you guys go out, stuff yourself with some pizza and wallow in it all you want. But you're right. Like, it will not help you tomorrow. You know, like,
no.
All right, what's the next idea? Let's do this thing.
Right.
Let's do it. It's forward. Okay. This idea is not my only thing. That pilot isn't the only thing I've ever made. That audition is not the last one I'm going to go on.
I remember Louis C.K. saying, like, talking kind of about this, and he said that you should never let, like, the one failure or the one project, whatever it is, determine what your success will be. If you have your whole life riding on this one project, this one moment, this one meeting, whatever it is, that's not the right attitude to have at all.
It's you sort of trying to control every little step of your future, and
you can't.
You can't, man. You can't predict it. Like, oh, because this person didn't like you, does that mean that you are talentless? No, man. You got other people that are probably going to be fans.
You can
of
only
your
control
work.
What? Your actions and attitude?
Yeah.
Am I missing anything? What else can I control?
Your actions, your attitude.
Everyone around me.
Probably what you say and do.
I guess.
I don't know.
A little bit. That's true.
Yeah.
Why don't we go back a little bit? What kind of student were you growing up through elementary school? Were you a good student?
I was a hardworking student. I was a good student. Early on, I was, I didn't have the off switch yet. You know, like I early on learned in elementary school, like, I'm a funny kid. I'm a goofy boy. And I would make my friends laugh in class, but I had this awesome teacher, Mrs. Masonary, in third grade, and she was trying to tell a story and teach the class something, and I was just goofing around. My idol back then was Steve Urkel from Family Matters. So I'm doing some Urkel joke, and she comes up and grabs me, drags me out of class, and she's like, Sipka, listen up. You're really funny, but right now, this is my show. And you know what? You got time? I was in third grade. So she was like, you got to know when to turn it on and turn it off. And right now, you got to turn it off. And I will never forget it. I am there right now. I can picture it so clearly. Yeah. And that was a game changer. Why else would this woman be telling me this unless it were the truth and it was to help me?
You're such a good listener. Even
oh
it
man,
sounds like you're a good listener and you really like take words to heart? Like, I don't know.
Well, it was. I think it's that youngest kid thing. You observe the people around you. I was watching my brothers and my parents and my teachers, and so that really helped me as a student and as a person and a performer to be like, you don't want to be that person who's just on all the time. That's hard to be around.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, after that, especially, I was a focused student. I did work really hard. School never really came easy for me, especially math. That was really tough. And so but I worked hard. I showed up every day. I wanted to be on time. And I know, especially when I got to high school, I had a hard time with testing, especially with math, like I said. And the only way I was able to pass was because I would always do my homework. I was relying on those few homework points, man. And even in college, like that was my hardest subject.
You might be the most hardworking, best student of anyone I've interviewed so far. I don't know if you got the best grades per se or whatever, but I mean, you seem like the most genuinely dedicated.
Oh, well, thanks, man.
I don't know.
I was that person who I did what I could control. Right. You know what? I can show up on time. I can work really hard to get the best grade I can. I can't guarantee I'm going to understand all of it. And that's definitely the truth. You know, there's things that I could retain, but a lot of it was hard. But I really loved stuff like art. I loved stuff like history, the social studies. I loved English. Those kind of subjects, I was like, I get these. The math and science, my brain just wasn't built for it.
I didn't enjoy math or science as much either. I liked history, English, all that stuff. I didn't like tests or homework, though.
Oh, man.
That stuff I did not like as much.
Yeah. The testing, it was those tests where it was, all right, you have to be tested on this whole semester. And you go, how am I going to remember what we just did on the first day of school? That's so tough. So I struggled with that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you told me a little about your brothers and what they did to torture you throughout your childhood. What about your father's impact on you?
So my dad growing up, he's one of the hardest working people that I've ever met. He is a math teacher, and so that was hard. That whenever I had a hard time with math, he was like, "Oh, which math?" Man? And I'd go, it's geometry. He'd go, that's my favorite one. I'd go, it's trigonometry. That's my favorite one. Like, he loves math. I've never met somebody who loves what they do more than him.
I think a lot of math teachers really do love math. I think
they have to.
There's students that they might not love, but the math.
Exactly it.
The math
they don't understand their students, but they understand the books.
Were your brothers good at math?
My brother Phil was sort of a more natural student. Steve hated math. Steve didn't like
so
math
you're not
either.
alone.
We weren't alone.
There you go.
But my dad, I always looked up to him. He was born in Ohio, and he was the lone brother. He had an older sister and a younger sister, so he was that middle child. And he, I don't know, just from an early age, I remember just laughing at him. He was just a really funny guy, and I remember when we would go visit my grandparents in Ohio, my mom, before we got in the car, she'd go, we're going to go see grandma today. And I'd go, the laughing grandma? She's like, yep. And because he would go there and make her laugh so hard. His mom. And, they grew up in a really small, tiny, they grew up in the projects in Ohio in a small town called Newton Falls. They grew up in this trailer, and I'm sure there wasn't always things that were worth laughing at, but I think it's cool looking back and reflecting that he found the funny. He found opportunities to make her laugh, to make his family laugh, his friends laugh. I think it's in his
personality.
It's in his personality. It's in his tone. His timing is what cracks me up. Like, he's definitely that guy that has his fair share of dad jokes, but honestly, I think the funny parts with him is he'll say things that just surprise me constantly, or he will interact with a cashier or with a waitress or with random people walking by, and it just makes me laugh still to this day.
Now, is he trying to be funny and his jokes are landing with these other people, or is it you're kind of laughing a little bit at him being dad?
It's
a little bit of both, maybe.
It's a little bit of both,
case by case.
But what's great is he he really does say things and come up with things to make people laugh. And he, I don't know, I genuinely think he's the funniest person I've ever met. Out of all comedians, out of all actors, I know that's a big statement. Even a few years ago for Christmas, I walked Hollywood Boulevard, found one of those fake Oscars, had it engraved, Tim Sipka, funniest man in the world, got it for him for Christmas. That's because awesome. He would, when I told him that he was the funniest man in the world, my mom then later got into a debate with him, and she's like, "You're just the funniest man he knows." And he's like, "He said funniest man in the world." Oh, now I got the trophy to prove it.
Yeah, that's a funny conversation right there. He's helping his cause.
He's helping his cause.
This insane debate.
And what's funny is I'll go back home. He'll say something new that cracks me up. And what's so funny is my mom will try and say something funny. And before she can even get it out, he'll be like, "Hey, come on. Leave the jokes up to the comedians." And he just, and I realized quickly, I went, I think my mom and dad are a comedy team. She's totally the straight man.
Right.
And he is just the goof. And I go, "I want you to know, Dad, she makes you funnier. Like she is the one who I think enhances your comedy, because he'll say something ridiculous and she'll just put him down. And it's so funny."
Have they ever performed or have any experience with comedy?
They both, I'd say they both have experience public speaking. Like my dad with teaching, and he'll also
right. He must be a funny teacher.
He's a funny teacher. I got to sit in on one of his classes, and it was really fascinating. I was in college, and I came back over the holiday break, and he's like, "Why don't you come into one of my classes?" I sat in on it. Dude, it was pretty nuts getting to see him at work. Like it was like multiple chalkboards, all these different colored chalks. It looked like Goodwill Hunting, just plastered all over.
That, yeah.
And he's just like calling out names. He's making jokes. It was so like fun to watch. It was weird because I had never seen somebody especially in a math subject, seeing somebody that passionate and excited and sort of like free in that environment that's usually pretty stuffy and pretty boring. Right. A lot of students don't want to be there. And I know he gets criticized all the time because when somebody asks him what he does for a living and he says, "I'm a math teacher," 90% of the time they go, "Oh, I hate math." And he's always like, "I don't say that about anybody else's career."
Right. No, that's a good point.
"Oh, you're a pediatrician? Oh, I hate kids." Like he's like, you never see anybody say that.
Why say you hate math? You could say, "I'm not good at math."
Exactly.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah. Why do you have to say you hate what I love doing?
Yeah.
But he loves it, man. We made fun of him a couple years ago because he read a book about zero. And we're like, this has to be the most boring book, man. You're just reading this for fun? What's wrong with you? But he just retired. He taught for 43 years. Reporting to that office at the college. And I'm like, man, that is dedication.
What school was it?
Alma College.
When you saw him teaching, did you kind of see him in like a different light, or had you seen him teach before? Was it almost like
he's
not dad, I see him more as a person thing? Or was it like, what were the feelings?
It was that feeling of seeing somebody in their zone, which I think is really fun. I always want to see my friends in that, my family in that.
Right.
It's really neat to see somebody because when they're in it and you're like, oh, that person is just, they're sort of like fully charged up, right? There is an on switch that's on there and they just are in their element.
Right.
Just so comfortable and confident and bold. And that's saying a lot for somebody who's teaching calculus to half asleep kids at 8 a.m. You go, man, this guy's making this subject that is really hard to understand a little bit easier, a little more engaging, and somehow he's making me laugh. It was crazy. That's not a challenge that I would want to take on as a comedian or somebody who's getting up in front of people.
No, your dad's a cool teacher.
He's the cool teacher.
Your dad,
and he's not that guy who's trying to be cool by wearing his hair cool or dressing in modern clothes or pulling up in a motorcycle. He's just. I think it's cool because of how much he loves it. It's almost contagious a little bit. And my mom, she's pretty confident speaking in front of people. She's also a teacher. She teaches at the community center that she directs. She will teach kids after school kids programs, free exercise classes, things like that. So she's always having to engage with a lot of different ages. So I saw both of them in their zones, and I think that really inspired me and my brothers to go, all right, well, I mean, it's clear what you're supposed to do. You do what you love, and you do what fires you up, like these two. Like,
yeah,
I want to find my zone. What's that going to be?
You already were able to sort of articulate that when you were in middle school, high school, growing up. You kind of knew, like, you saw your parents in their zone. I want to be in the zone. What's my zone? You already were able to formulate those kinds of questions.
I think we're always thinking that. And you're not necessarily going and forming it in necessarily these words, but we're those sponges, man, and we're watching them. And when you go and visit your parents at work and you see them enjoying themselves and you see them come home and they seem to be in a good mood, or like my dad was excited to come help me with my math homework at the end of the day. I'm like, all right, there's something weird here. Like there's something special here. So yeah, I think that rubs off on you for sure.
And what about, because obviously your dad it sounds like a comedic influence, and maybe even your brothers to some degree too. What were your other like comedy influences like growing up? Were you big into movies, TV shows? What were you listening to different kinds of music? What were you kind of like consuming as far as like cultural things and media?
It definitely started with Steve Urkel from Family Matters. I thought this guy was hilarious, man. And now learning more about it, how Steve Urkel was just going to be a side character on that show, and he became the lead because he was so funny and so loved. And the Ernest movies, remember the Ernest movies? Man, my brothers and I would lose it watching those movies with my parents. And so Ernest was a huge inspiration. Jim Carrey and Robin Williams, those guys are on the Mount Rushmore of comedians for me, just because they were the guys who could do it all.
Right.
They killed it with stand-up, and they killed it with comedy, and even their dramas are great.
Yeah.
And so those guys both, in terms of what I want to do and careers I'd like to really follow, it's those two.
Yeah.
Just watching their movies, that was the first time I remember watching movies that I was laughing, my brothers were laughing, my parents were laughing, my cousins were laughing, all the way up to my grandparents. And I was like, whoa, what are these guys doing? What are these guys doing that nobody else is doing?
Yeah.
And it wasn't comedy that was trying to appeal to everybody, but it was, I feel like they were being so
real,
weird
and
also authentic.
Yeah, authentic, and it still has a universal, I guess, appeal to what they're doing.
And I think what's neat is they also made stuff that is pretty timeless. Like I love going back and rewatching pretty much any movie they've made. Throw in an Ace Ventura,
right?
Dumb and Dumber, Mrs. Doubtfire, Patch Adams. Like I'll watch those anytime. And so I love those guys growing up. And we loved movies like Major Payne. We loved Chris Farley,
right?
And Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. And I think the 90s was such a strong time of comedy in terms of movies and TV. And Seinfeld, loved Seinfeld. Even as a kid, I was like, this is hilarious. And it's one of those things I just appreciate more as I get older.
What's changed about comedy movies? Not that there's still great comedy movies, but something about like 90s comedy movies. Is it like the magical realism? Is it the silliness? Is it the less PC? I think I noticed we are not putting the character first.
Right. We made a switch. It used to be in the 90s, you would base an entire movie around famous comedians' talents. All right, Jim Carrey is made of rubber. Let's make something like Ace Ventura where he walks funny, he talks funny, he acts funny, and then everybody around him is a straight character. Like Dumb and Dumber is hilarious because Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey are absolute idiots. And everybody else in the world is not only completely straight, they think Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels are geniuses. Lloyd and Harry are con artist geniuses. And in the 2000s, movies made a switch where they made the lead character, the guy next door, straight character, normal guy, and they made all the rest of the cast goofy. So it went from goofy characters in a normal world to normal guys in a goofy world.
Yeah.
And I think goofy world's not as funny.
Right.
I think you gotta bring back the goofy character and the normal world. I think it's so much more fun to watch. And those are the movies when you're in the mood to laugh. That's what I go back to. And I think that's what a lot of people go back to.
That was very well said, my friend.
Hey, well, thank you. I've thought about it too, because I don't want to be that guy who's just nostalgic and looking back and going, that was the best time.
No,
that was
I'm the
best
same way,
time.
especially about music, because I listen to a lot of classic rock, and most of the music I listen to is
Same.
old. But there's still great music that's being made today.
For sure.
That even, throws, homage to music from the past.
Yeah.
So it's not like the past is being ignored by new culture either.
Right. We can still make great things. And I think that's what inspires me to go, all right, am I going to stop whining about the 90s and how much better it was? Or am I going to try and create a funny movie or a funny show, whatever that is, that has my values that I reflect? Like, let's do one where it's a goofy character in a normal world.
Yeah, that
let's
inspires you from those 90s movies that you loved.
Yeah.
Where do we go after high school? What happens then?
So after high school, after I realized I wasn't going to be a professional football player, I went to Anderson University, which is a small school in Indiana. And when I was there, I started doing stand-up in Indianapolis. I started a sketch comedy group with a couple buddies called Business Casual.
That you wanted to do this before college. When did this?
Going in, I knew I wanted to pursue a career in acting and comedy, and I knew I wanted to move to LA. So it was going in. I knew that was the end goal, and so while I was there, I think most of the things I did were geared towards that, and it was outside of the class that I think I really enjoyed and took advantage of the school, because they had just such supportive staff there that were like, hey, we got an auditorium. Want to use it? We got this stage. Want to use it? We got this. We want to use it. Nobody was saying no to my ideas. And so
that's cool.
I really learned how to present myself and do comedy in front of the school and then in front of strangers in Indianapolis. And it was fun getting to make videos, learning how to edit, learning how to brainstorm and work with a team of writers and do live shows and promote and create your own content. And it was sort of before the big YouTube boom,
right.
But we just loved doing it. And so I spent my time creating those shows and hosting events there and doing that stand-up regularly. And it really, I think, helped me feel encouraged to go, okay, I feel great about where I'm going. I feel like I've made progress. And this sort of felt like, okay, you're getting enough green lights to LA. Like, all right, you've done it here.
Things are happening.
People are laughing.
Progress.
People are encouraging you and supporting you, and you're still having fun with this. You got to keep going. And so I made the move to LA right after I graduated.
So you were a drama major?
I went in as a theater major. Okay. And quickly I realized, okay, this is for people who want to work in theater. And that wasn't me. I wanted to do film acting.
Sure.
And there was a film department and a theater department. And they didn't really mix. And there was no film acting. And I loved the school still and didn't want to leave. So I made the decision, all right, I'm going to stay, but if I'm going to be doing any performing, it's going to be on my own, pretty much. So I stuck around there. I changed my major several times, ended up graduating with a speech communication degree, which definitely helped me in terms of writing and, in a sense, performing. But at the end of the day, I was like, all right, let's get this degree in 4 years and move out to LA and let's do this thing.
It sounds like you took it, even, maybe your major wasn't exactly what you wanted to do, or you switched majors a bunch of times. Like all your extracurricular activities and time, a lot of it seemed to be focused on what you loved. Yeah.
And it was really fun and really challenging. And I'm glad I did it looking back, because I don't know. I think if I hadn't had those 4 years of all those experiences, I don't know if I would have had the full confidence to move out here. I think it'd be really hard if I went, I'm going to start stand-up out here. I'm going to start acting out here.
Right.
That would be really difficult, I think.
It would have been just harder, and you wouldn't have had that head start. What did your dad and your parents think about, like, all this, pursuing all this stand-up and sketch comedy and video?
They had my back, which I really appreciated. They would come to shows when they could. They would drive from Michigan to Indiana and watch them. How far is
that drive?
It's probably about a 4-hour drive.
Not bad.
So they would come and watch and support, and that meant a lot, having them root for me, just like they were coming to the football games, right? And I think they, I'm sure like any parent, were a little bit worried about their kid moving out to LA. It's such a far, unknown, strange place.
And pursuing a career in the entertainment business.
Right.
On top of it, yeah.
I think it helped that I have 2 older brothers that did weird things. Like Phil, my oldest brother, moved to Inglewood, Southside Chicago, started his own nonprofit coffee house. And my brother Steve actually lived in Anderson, where I went to college. Now he lives in Indianapolis. But he started a halfway house for people that are struggling with addictions. Maybe they just got out of jail, whatever. Maybe they want to get back on their feet, find a job. And so he started that. And so when I was like, I think I want to be an actor, they were like, that sounds pretty normal. Right. That sounds like the most normal thing. Go for it.
Yeah, you come from a family of bold people who make bold choices or just have bold attitudes and do bold things.
Yeah, and that was cool to see. See people taking a leap and maybe starting something that is unpredictable, where there isn't a path that leads to something so clear for them. Like watching my brothers, that was cool seeing them sort of create their own things.
Trying something new and creating something from nothing that may benefit people in one form or another.
And having the ability to see it before it exists and seeing it when maybe nobody else sees it and staying encouraged throughout. Man, I don't know. Looking back, I don't know how those guys did it.
I'm trying to do it with this podcast, man. I tell you, I'm trying.
Shoot, man. Well, you're being consistent. Like you said, every week you're doing it.
I'm trying.
Yeah, man.
So what about after college? Did you come straight to LA right after school?
After college, went home, packed up, and I think within a few weeks or a month, I was out here. And it was kind of that first challenge where you go, all right, I did it. What's next?
Yeah,
because you get here. What was next for me was I went, all right, what do I want to do? What do I love doing? And I just dove into the improv community, taking free improv classes and workshops and meeting other people who, hey, believe it or not, moved out here and want to do all the exact same things as me.
Did you have any improv experience at college or anything like that?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, my high school teacher, Mrs. Campbell, still my favorite teacher ever, she was actually the one who introduced me to improv my junior year. So she would teach us all these improv exercises, and we would do these scenes, and that was great. That was one of the first times where I went, oh, this is my zone. It's not on the football field, that's for sure. This is my zone. And so I took that to college, and in college there was improv classes there too, and also got to be a part of a couple improv teams while I was there, and then used that while I was starting the sketch group, Business Casual. We would use improv, and we would outline our sketches and use a lot of improv live, which was really fun. And I just went, okay, this is, I think, one of my strengths is getting to make this kind of stuff up on the spot and make people laugh. And so when I came out here and got to do it, it was like, all right, this is the muscle I want to be flexing. And it was like going to the gym, and you meet other people that want to get strong too. And they want to,
it's inspiring.
It's inspiring. So it was that first time where you went, oh, I'm not that weird. I was that weird guy in Michigan who wanted to act and do comedy. I was that weird guy in Indiana who wanted to do it. And now I'm with a bunch of the weirdos. And none of us are alone anymore,
Did you feel competitive at all with other people? Did you ever feel competitive with other comedians or actors or performers?
Nobody has done anything to ever make it feel competitive out here. If anything, I think in my mind, and I think a lot of us fall into this trap, especially with social media, is just we do the competing in our heads.
Right.
We think there's a competition. There's not. And we do all the comparing. We go, that guy's got what I want. Come on. It's that grass is greener. My plate's empty. Yours is full. False mentality. And it's not fair and it's unhealthy. But you definitely do. You go, well, that guy's been here a year. I've been here 3 or 4 years, and he's way farther than me. And we do this. We create this competition.
And I think that's natural.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have those thoughts and feelings. But again, I think for me and maybe for you and for other people, I think it's just best to like not dwell on that.
Right.
You can notice it. You can be like, oh, okay, so that person's not hipping, shorter than me, more successful, shorter time in LA, but whatever.
Yeah. How that person's doing shouldn't be my motivation. Like beating them shouldn't be my motivation. No. It shouldn't be. Like your love for this or that idea you're passionate about should motivate you, or to make people laugh should motivate you, or to get in that zone that you love so much. But the competition part, that's just not, it's not fun. And it most of the time brings out the worst in you.
So you're not trying to destroy everyone in your path.
Not trying to destroy everyone in my path. I'm coming out here. I'm trying to make good friends and find people that want to make fun stuff with me too. Like people that want to join up, do an improv team, make videos, create our own films. And I found that. And I think that's awesome. That made it feel like home. It made it feel like a community, and it sort of shrinks the town down a little bit, right? When you've got friends and neighbors, right? It happens each year. It slows things down a little bit, shrinks it down a little bit, and I don't know. I think
it's a big spread out town, but you see everyone everywhere. You keep running into the same people.
Yes, especially the comedy
so be nice
community.
To them.
Yeah,
so be nice to everyone.
It's so funny because I love that about this town because nobody cares or really knows what your past was, whether it was good or bad. They don't care if your family was rich. They don't care what kind of student you were, or if you were great at sports, or if you had this certain reputation or whatever.
Right.
None of that matters. What kind of person are you? Are you somebody I want to be friends with? Are you somebody worth driving to hang out with? Are you somebody I want to work with? Are you somebody that makes me laugh? And I love that people just want to work with people that they like.
Yeah.
Are you a good person?
LA and the comedy community too, I feel like has this reputation, maybe even from people who are on the outside of it, that it's cutthroat and people don't get along and everybody in LA is fake and there's not genuine people and no one's authentic. And I'm sure there's a lot of truth in that in many places. But, you get to choose who you want to associate with.
Right. That's the best part. This town isn't 100 people. You can be picky. And if somebody's showing up to your show at 8 p.m. on a Monday after rush hour, after a long day's work, it's because they love you and support you. It's not because it was convenient. It's not because it was there by circumstance. Like they were intentionally there to support you. And that means a lot, because I think in a lot of circumstances, I think people stay friends with people just because they're there, or just because I'll probably run into them again. But here you get to really choose your community, and you get to choose who you are, and you get to surround yourself with people of your choice, which is really cool. And the comedy community is a great community out here.
I thought you were talking about me because I saw you perform on a Monday.
Oh, man, you did come out on a Monday.
Yeah, I'm like, is he talking about me?
That's right. That's right.
I'm like, you're welcome.
See, but that's awesome. That's so awesome that you came out on a Monday just to laugh and have a great time. Like, you completely chose to do that. You didn't just like run into the place.
No, I love comedy. I love laughing. So tell me more about like your LA journey. You were in improv, and where did we kind of go from there?
So I dove into the improv world, and I definitely the priority has always been acting on top of everything. And I think my mindset has always been, all right, what am I going to do to better myself as an actor and to increase my opportunities as an actor? So I tried it with improv, and I realized, okay, with improv, I feel really busy. I feel like I'm working hard. I'm on a bunch of teams. I'm doing all these shows, but I only see this improv ladder And at the top is you're an improv teacher or you're really good at improv and more improv shows. And I went, I don't think that's my thing. I love doing improv, but I love doing it on camera when I'm a character and it's captured there so everybody can watch it and enjoy it. I was always so frustrated after a great improv show. We'd get off stage and it'd be like, well, that was just for you guys, and then it will never be done again.
Yeah.
And so it was the temporariness, which is also the special part about it, and that's that with improv. And so I took a step back and I sort of reevaluated how am I going to approach this, and I dove back into the stand-up world. And I really, really loved getting back into it. I had always struggled with, like, what's my voice? You know, I'm just some young 20-something kid out here. Who's going to care about what I have to say? And one night my parents were visiting, and I just got up at a show that I was hosting, and I just riffed and told stories and jokes about each of them. And I was getting all these laughs, and somebody came up to me afterwards, and they were like, oh, man, I could listen to you do stand-up about your family all day. And I was like, oh, could you? And so my family planned a vacation out here. And my family, my parents are in Michigan, my brother Steve and his wife Elise, they are in Indianapolis, and my brother Phil's in Chicago. So we don't always get together, you know, maybe at Christmas every other year, but I don't necessarily always get to see them. So when I found that they were all going to be here in LA for the first time together, I planned a stand-up special where I put them all on stage on a couch and I roast each of them to their faces.
Wow.
Telling true stories and jokes, one by one. And
was this filmed?
We filmed it, and
awesome. We
put it on Amazon Prime, and it's called Mark Sipka, My Special Family Special.
That's cool.
Dude, they were such good sports. And
I'm going to check that out.
Check it out, man. I want to know what you think, because I at first was like, okay, are people going to think this is funny if they don't know me or my family? And it's turned out to be, people are just laughing because it's a family.
Right.
And it's a strange family. And I feel like a lot of families, you show love by how much you make fun of each other. And that's really what I experienced growing up and what I still experience. Each time we get together, we're roasting each other. We're bringing up most embarrassing moments, and we're just waiting for the other person to say or do something dumb.
I feel like you're so well adjusted or something. I don't know. Maybe
thanks, man.
Maybe it's just from all the torture that your family gave you. Thick skin, I guess.
Pretty thick. Hey, there's times where I'm a pretty weak dude, but I try to be tough out here, man.
Yeah.
But no, I value them. I value my family a lot, and so I wanted people to get to see that, and they were who I loved talking about most on stage, and had so many stories from childhood to now, and so it was fun having like this full theater of people.
When was this?
And this would have been, I think, 2017.
Okay,
and it just got released December of 2018.
Okay,
is when it came out. So it's been out a little over a year.
Nice.
And the response has just been so neat from people who I don't even know, being like, oh man, your dad reminds me of my dad, or my brothers used to do the same thing to me, or my mom said that embarrassing thing. And it was neat, man. It was definitely my favorite performing experience to date. And it was a challenge to take on doing, that long of a thing, like an hour-long special and that long performing. But afterwards, it was that feeling of just like, all right, I just did all these months of planning, all of this, and tonight I'm going to hit the pillow. I'm going to feel good, and I feel like I left it all out on the field. And so that was, I don't know, that was definitely the highlight of my LA experience so far, performing-wise.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And what else? What were the other highlights, or what else?
There's been some fun experiences out here, man. I think I produced my own variety show for a couple years called Mark Sipka's Comedy Review, and that really gave me a chance to perform a lot of my stand-up. I would challenge myself to do about a new 10 minutes every month, and it was really great to write new jokes and test them out for that audience that night. And it was fun to get to book other comedians and magicians and singers and improv teams and just have that variety.
Nice.
And show people that I invited, like, hey, it's going to be a good show. You're going to get a little bit of everything. And so I really did love doing that. And I really loved creating original characters and having them interact with the audience.
That's what I saw you do as a character.
Yes.
When did the character stuff start?
That stuff really started. I mean, when I look back on it, I was doing that as a little kid. I went back home over Christmas this past break, was opening up this treasure chest that I used to use as a kid, and it had all my costumes and wigs in it. And it was sort of surreal, like holding up, this little shirt that I used to dress up as Robin Hood in. You see your suspenders that I used to be Steve Urkel in, and
not for Halloween.
Not for Halloween, just for fun. I was that kid.
When you were how old? Like
elementary school.
You would just dress up as different characters,
different characters,
wacky characters, create your own characters.
I still remember watching Three Amigos. I was dressing up as a cowboy, and I would try and memorize the My Little Buttercup song, and it was on VHS. So I would stop, rewind it, pause it, rewind it. I would write down the lyrics and what dance moves they did, and I took that into high school. In high school, like I said, in basketball, that was sort of the first sport that broke my heart a little bit, and I was on the bench. And so my last 2 years, I decided, all right, I'm going to do? I'm going to lead the student section in cheers. And so I created these different characters. I would come out as like an old man, grandpa. I created this character that was like, sort of like, that later developed to be Uncle Chet, who was like this guy with a mullet and sunglasses and a Fu Manchu. And I would lead the crowd as these characters in chants for the basketball team. And I took that into college, and I started realizing when I created the sketches, I love going into the crowd as these different characters and letting them ask me questions. So I would do this character called Uncle Chet, and the segment would be Uncle Chet's life advice. And so I would just go out, and it was definitely inspired by my real Uncle Mike, just the crazy things he would say and do, and just his tone. And I would go out and let the audience ask me whatever question, and I would just get to improvise the answer. And so out here, when I was doing these original characters at my shows, I started doing that with a bunch of them, and it helped me develop them more. Like Tad, the one that you saw me perform, Tad was created because in college at a Goodwill in Indianapolis, I found this shirt that had all the Wizard of Oz characters on it. I bought it, didn't look at it for probably about 4 or 5 years. A few years ago, I was making a character reel and submitting it for a sketch show, and I was just going through my wardrobe, and I just picked up this shirt, and I just went, Wizard of Oz? And I was like, maybe I can make a character who thinks Wizard of Oz is the greatest. And so I just shot a little video as him really quickly, and then I went, I'm going to try him out live. And this is one of the characters that I did, and I actually expected it to not go that well. And I can't say, most of the time I have high expectations that what I just created is going to go well.
Yeah, otherwise why take the time to do it?
Yeah, but I thought, if this character's only layer is that he thinks Wizard of Oz is the greatest, is that really enough? And so I went out there, I had memorized some Wizard of Oz facts, pleaded my case for why I think it's the greatest, and then I opened up the floor and let people suggest movies that they thought were better. And people were loving it. And it made me realize I think the audience loves when you give them some power, you give them some control, and you go, all right, how's the show going to go? You get to be a part of it more than just by being here and laughing.
And you don't know how it's going to go. It's like
none of us know how.
Exciting and spontaneous.
Yeah, and I wanted that. And I think with the original characters, I love doing them so much because it combines my love of stand-up, acting, characters, and improv. And I want to find more ways of doing that. And I just love being able to go, all right, nobody knows what's going to happen next. Isn't this fun?
Yeah.
And so much fun stuff comes from that.
No, that's cool.
I love doing it.
I can't help but think back on something you said maybe a few minutes ago about being on the bench in high school basketball and becoming a cheerleader slash mascot, essentially.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, if there's any other moment in your life that sort of summarizes or encapsulates you, is there a bigger, more of a moment than that?
You're like, if you can't be a part of them, cheer for them, something like that.
I guess so. That's just a funny, organic thing that happened to you. I guess
That is pretty goofy.
That's a pretty amazing. So you were like in the basketball, in basketball uniform on the bench, and you just decided I'm going to start to just get the crowd going.
So I played basketball my whole life up until my JV season, so sophomore year. And so I quit after that year. And junior and senior year I didn't play anymore. So that's when I decided, all right, that's not my zone. It was around that time when I think with the help of encouraging friends, but also my drama teacher, she was the first person that I remember taking me aside and being like, I think you could really do this. And that meant the world to me.
Perform.
You can perform. Yeah. I really think you could do this. And so having that voice in my head really helped. And so getting to go and do that was so much fun. Like I remember with the Uncle Chet character with the mullet, I wore this orange prison jumpsuit that I had found at a costume shop. I wore that to the games because our colors were orange and black, and I'm cheering for the team. And and that Monday after the game, I remember the assistant principal called me in and was like, "Hey, no more prison jumpsuits. I don't want people thinking that the people that go to this school also go to jail." And I was like, all right, man. All right. I was never that guy that was much of a rebel or like trying to ruffle any feathers.
Yeah, not
but
on purpose.
That was pretty funny. I think I've always liked getting to fool people a little bit.
Sure.
In an innocent way, but like dressing up like that old man. You know, there was somebody that came up to my mom and was like, the whole game, I had no clue why there was a senior citizen in the middle of that student section with a cane taking 5 minutes to get up the bleachers. Or like, I liked getting to like pull a fast one on people.
What kind of things did you yell as an old man? Or whatever?
Oh man, I remember I would yell like specific cheers at specific players. So I would learn
on the other team?
I would learn their names
on your team, yeah.
And I would just roast their players. Like when it got quiet and the other team's players the other team, whenever that other team is about to shoot a free throw, it's dead silent. And I'd be like, "Jeffrey, I want to talk to you about your education. I understand that you're doing a general studies major. You might as well just throw your degree away, son." And it was so much more distracting to have an old man talking to you specifically than boo from 100 people.
Yeah, because when you hear a conversation, you become engaged in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would do that. I even did that while I was on the team, like on a baseball team. I used to pretend to be Chewbacca when the other pitcher was pitching. I would just go, and like he would throw the ball in the dirt, throw it in the backstop.
You're a great fan.
I'm a great fan, man. While I'm playing, I was like, all right, get some sunflower seeds.
You did help the team in your own way. Always help the team.
Hey, man, you got to pull out every secret weapon you got. Why not?
So.
You can fight them even when you're not on the field.
You are literally a character.
Yeah.
Characters.
It's characters. I think that's what it comes back to for me is like, all right, what do people remember? What do they love? What do I gravitate towards? It's always a great character.
Yeah.
When I see somebody sort of disappear into a role or play a character that just takes you somewhere else, man, there's something special about
Sometimes characters you see and you want to be. I want to be that character.
Yeah, right?
For
like
even a day or whatever. I want to be that character's cool. That character's funny. That character's smooth.
Yes.
Even if they're not perfect.
Exactly.
I still want to be that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's characters of mine who I'm like, gosh, I wish I had half the confidence of that guy, right? Like, so why not go and play and get to perform as these people and have fun as them?
For sure. Cool.
They're all me, but for some reason, when I put on a voice and a pair of glasses, I get to just say whatever I want. What is it about that? I don't know. I
freeing.
think
It's freeing.
It's freeing for sure.
Cool. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. What else are you working on these days? Why don't you tell people what else you're working on, where they can find you? And
Of course, man.
I'll let you go on with your life.
Yeah, I'm still doing a bunch of stand-up. So if you guys ever want to see me, you can go to my website. It's just marksipka.com. And there's a little section there that says see a show. And you can check my calendar out. I always update it. I'm either going to be doing stand-up or I'll be doing characters. So you can come and heckle Tad and try and come up with a movie you think's better than Wizard of Oz. This year, I definitely am going to be working on something scripted, man. Something character-based. Hold me to it, Adam. If you don't see something by the end of this year, I want to tell stories as these characters. So if you don't see something of me on screen. A one-man
show, a movie, something?
Something.
Okay.
So there's something, man.
Something written.
Yeah, something written, scripted. It's got to be a movie, a show, a series, whatever. That's got to happen this year. So I'm working on that next in terms of creating my own stuff. And if you guys want to see any of my work, you can check out the website, or you can also go to Instagram at Mark Sipka. I'm always posting goofy videos on there, whether it's a clip from stand-up or... Oops.
You good?
Oh, that was a good burp. Whether it's I'm always posting goofy videos on Instagram, whether it's a clip of stand-up or a character or a sketch that I'm doing. So you can go and check those out. And then if you want to see the stand-up special, you guys can watch it on Amazon Prime. You can stream it free, or if you don't have Prime, you can rent it or you can buy it. It's called Mark Sipka, My Special Family Special.
Sweet. How many characters do you do as part of your performance? How many are in the stable right now?
Shoot, one's in the stable. I'd say
in the rotation, whatever you want to say.
I'd say ones that you could see me performing live. Currently, about 4 or 5.
Gotcha.
I've got about more like 10 to 15 that I've done throughout my life, but like some just work better as a video, you know. But performing live, I got to be honest, I really liked just going up as Tad and challenging myself with that. But I'm going to keep bringing new ones up and bringing old ones back and creating other ones that.
Do you think you'll use, or do you use Tad for things that are not Wizard of Oz, like any other Tad things?
No. Tad is only Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about how do you determine or decide what show, like what you're going to do? Do you alternate? I'm going to do a character for this show. I'm going to do stand up for this show. Do you do shows where you do a mix of both, like depending on how many minutes you get?
Yeah. I guess I have done some shows where I actually change and I become Tad later, or I come out as myself later. In my old show that I used to produce, I would come out, do like an opening monologue of stand up. I would change during the next performance, and then I'd come out as Tad or as another character. But usually for me, I'll be asked to do a character. If it's like a more variety style show. I'll usually let them know I'm performing a character in advance. And so I usually, the bulk of my live shows have been me doing stand-up, but I'd say a good 25, 30% of them, I'm Tad or another character. And so,
yeah, it sounds like you have a good balance, and you kind of don't do all characters. You don't do all stand-up. You kind of go see what people want, what fits the show.
Yeah.
You make it work.
Yeah. Sometimes it's tempting to go, all right, let's just do this and nothing else. But I love doing each of them so much that I couldn't see myself really leaving them.
It probably keeps it fresh, too, if you can alternate between doing, more conventional stand-up comedy versus doing a character. You can keep them each fresh. You don't get sick of either one, I guess.
Because if I'm getting bored, you guys are going to get bored, and I can't blame you for that. So I also want to do it because I get to do some more acting, and I like that, and it keeps me on my toes. Just letting the audience say something to me, something new and fun could really come from it, and it always does with those ones where I let them say something to me.
Cool. I look forward to seeing you perform again soon. More shows.
Thanks, man.
It'll be fun. Talk soon.
Thanks, Adam.
Later. So there you have it. My conversation with Mark Sipka. What a nice guy. Though I'm pretty sure I'm glad I did not grow up with his older brothers. Or maybe I should have. I'd probably be tougher now. For real, I thank Mark for his time, and I can't wait to see him perform again soon. For everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always. And let's talk soon. Peace.